Welcome to Leveraging Success, where faith, business, and legacy meet. I'm Jeff Gerhardt. This is episode 4 of 5 in our Thriving Partnership series, and today we're talking about the slow fade, the silent drift that ambushes high performing leaders in their marriage. We'll unpack Ephesians 5, my pastor's leaky tire warning, and the difference between a hard season and a dangerous pattern, and the conversation Heather and I had walking our dogs in Southern California that changed everything. Let's get into it. All right, we're going to get into this episode today. This is episode 4 of 5. What a great topic we've got here to be talking about a thriving partnership. The challenge with a thriving partnership is keeping it. It's not task, it's time, right? It's not a checkbox I can say, we've got a great marriage and we're done. It's work for the rest of our lives. And so that kind of work is something that we concentrate on because we're trying to build something here. Now, I've got an amazing partner in Heather. She's just wonderful, and so much of our success I credit to God and to her, her upbringing, her commitment. She has been amazing, even in moments when I have not, and so, a lot of credit goes to her, and so these ideas came in a collaboration that we've had together over all these decades that we've been married, and so I'm gonna be talking to you today about this slow fade concept. Now, uh, I'll take you to just what was an amazing weekend that we just had. Our niece, Julia, got married to an amazing young man, Samuel. And so just congratulations to Julia and Samuel Otterbury. They are celebrating on their honeymoon. They may be back by the time that this episode is out. But all that to say is that we were here at an amazing worship service, seeing these two young people commit their lives to each other. Now, when we talk about committing our lives to someone, that's the concept that we've got with marriage, till death do us part. And I tell you what, the pastor did just a splendid job at bringing this marriage into worship of Jesus. And that's what we were doing. Everything from the singing to the ceremony to the picture of Julia as the bride walking down the aisle with her father to be delivered to the groom. I tell you what, it was just an amazing picture. Now, I can't help it. I get choked up at weddings. I don't know why. Maybe it's the picture of love, but this time meant even more to me, I gotta say, because I've been reading a book. I don't know if I've mentioned it here or not before, but I'm gonna say it again, even if I have. I'm reading The King is Coming by John Bevere. And this book has been so refreshing to me to reinvigorate the certainty of our future, not only of eternity, but Jesus's return here and what is to come. And it's such a great picture. John does a wonderful job of intersecting his courtship of his wife, Lisa, their dating life, their marriage, and how that is a perfect picture of Jesus's return to get his bride, the church. And thinking of that great picture, watching a wedding so beautiful and seeing this thought that Jesus loves his church. He has been faithful to his church no matter what his church has done. He's been faithful. And so I just can't help but have that picture as I think about marriage. And so I want to take it to some verses here. I'm going to go to Ephesians 5 and unplugs or replug maybe some things here for us to be thinking about with marriage as a foundation for the discussion I want to have with you here in this episode. First here, Paul writes under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, Ephesians 5:21, he says, "Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ." Now, submission is really a picture of marriage, right? It's dying to each other's needs and being here to build each other up and to be a picture of Jesus's sacrifice for us. And so that's very, very much what I have found marriage to be. In fact, I'm certain that if I wasn't married and committed to Christ, I would have at some point found myself in a gutter, sleeping under a bridge. I'm sure of it, because marriage and its sacrifice has drawn me closer to God and made me a better man. That the pain of it, the struggle of it, and every party in any relationship that's committed will struggle. I say this often, and sometimes it puts people at pause, but I say this and I really believe it, is that nothing good in my life does not involve pain. Nothing truly good does not involve pain, pushing down of my needs in service to others' needs, and sucking it up. And this is really what sucking it up looks like. It's you before me, the submission to you, and marriage in that picture, because it can be very painful, it can be very difficult. In fact, I'll say if you've never been through a season of difficulty, I wonder if you've really been married. There's just a natural part of that, and so I hope that maybe that even puts you at ease, no matter where you're at in your marriage. Is that I've never met a couple still married that doesn't say, "We've gone through seasons." Now, there's a difference between a season that's struggling and a season that's on a pattern for trouble, and we're gonna talk about that today. But this first verse, Ephesians 5:21, is all about submission. Now, there's instructions to both the wives and the husbands. I wanna read just some excerpts of the rest of this chapter here in chapter 5. Paul says, verse 22, "Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord." Now, submission again here is a picture of submitting to Jesus, right? He's God, I am not. He's in charge, he's the boss. He has said how we should behave, and so I submit to him. I'm submitting my life to him. I'm making sure that, everything that I'm doing is in alignment to what he wants. I don't wanna get out of step with my Lord. And so submitting to your husbands is a part of that process. In fact, it goes on in verse 23 to say, "For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior." Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. Now, I can tell you, whether you're married to an amazing man or you're not married to an amazing man, this can be a stumbling block, because if you've decided that you know best, or that you've got some better ideas, and in fact, you might. This is a process with which it's, your needs before my needs, as well as a decision to submit to the leadership of the husband. Now, I will tell you that Heather let me play quarterback. She submitted to me, she still submitted to me in a way with which she made me better. And I am positive that she had better plays to bring into the huddle with me. And there were times where she let me know, hey, by the way, there could be a better way. But even if I was wrong, and when I've been wrong, she's let me call the play, and she's executed it famously. Now, that doesn't mean that she didn't try to improve on, when I was going the wrong direction. She did, but she was always faithful in this, and she still is. And it's been just brilliant. She's made me a better man. She's made me love Jesus even more through the way that she's responded to me. Now, here in verse 25, it says, "Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church." Now, just stop there for a moment. Love just as Jesus loved the church. I mean, that's a high standard. That's this I'm now going to make sure that I'm going to give my life up in the way that Jesus did, who was beaten to shreds within an inch of his life, sort of thing, and still carried the the cross, walked up there and was nailed to it, and he suffered and died for me. And so This is the standard. It's what will you suffer for and give yourself up for her? Now, I'm gonna read the verse again. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as radiant church without stain or wrinkle or any blemish, but holy and blameless. Wow. So for me, my role here is to set the tone and tempo for the words that I'm going to say, that it would create a washing of, that it would protect her from sin. Because listen, I am the thermostat for my family. I'm the thermostat. And uh, I set the tempo for how much are we gonna say yes to? What are we gonna say yes to? Where are the boundaries at? And so this is the work within, my marriage, that dying for her, submitting to her needs, trying to bring her to a place with which her care is seen by the way that I speak, that I protect her. I leave her in a place where her life is set up for the most success in eternity possible. This here in verse 28. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own body. He who loves his wife loves himself. So these are some incredible standards of love both ways that take the work of collaboration, that create strain, uncertainty, difficulty. And in that, just beauty happens. I came into marriage thinking, hey, what are you here to give to me? I'm here to get more than I am to give. I really, my young mind, inexperienced naivete, whatever you want to call it, I came to this marriage thinking, hey, babe, you got to take care of this. You got to take care of me. And uh, that has created moments of all sorts of challenge and difficulty. Uh, Now, I'm going to talk to you today about a slow fade because as people who slip into high performance, when we slip into high performing, what happens is the drift is quiet. It's silent. We're talking about a slow fade to where all of a sudden there's a problem. We are miles apart. And I just want you to understand this. In rare cases, and I'm not aware of any, and so I'm not a big student of data around the D word, divorce. But divorce that I have known wasn't dramatic. It wasn't one day to the next, I'm done, we're done, whatever that is, that happened, but rather it is this leaky tire concept that my pastor, Pastor Brian, who, by the way, in case you're ever thinking who the two men that are behind me on that picture, one of them is Pastor Brian Smith, who's already gone to be with the Lord. Amazing man who poured into me in my 20s when I was young and needed his discipleship. And Bob Schenk, the founder of Priority Living and the Master's Program. I had the two of them together at my daughter's wedding some years ago, and it was too great an opportunity for me not to get a great picture with those two important men in my life. But one thing that Pastor Brian used to say to me in my 20s is that, Jeff, what's going to happen if you're not careful is there's going to have this tiny leak in your tire, and you're going to think all of a sudden that you had a blowout and you're pulled over on the side of the freeway because the tire just exploded. But what was happening all along was that there was a nail in there was a problem, there was a leak, and that leak was slow, and then all of a sudden you got a flat, and that you gotta watch out and protect for these leaks, and that's really what we're talking about today. So I wanna talk to you about what does this slow fade look like actually in real life? Where does it show up. And I'm gonna give you maybe a couple of stories here. The first one for me, as an example, was where Heather and I were living overseas. And while we were living overseas, and I was having the career time of my life, my career was absolutely hockey sticked up and to the right. And as I was moving through that season, we were drifting slowly. Now, at the same time, there are all sorts of background issues, plus my success, plus her struggle, plus our children living in another country. And it wasn't big blowout, but by the time we got back, I realized just how distant I had become. The moments with which I thought, what's the use of this? Or how is this meeting my needs? And I'm out here doing X, Y, and Z. And where are you at? And this distance kept happening to the both of us. Some signs there that you might be able to rationalize, that I certainly did, is when you stop giving each other information or volunteering information about your day or your inner world. You're self-censoring or not bothering because there's there's just no reason, or it's just, "Hey, you're busy, I'm busy, we'll find time at some point to catch up, and it's really unimportant." No, no, it's just not true. It's that there's an inner self that needs to be shared in the intimacy of our marriage. So, we've got to bring that to the outside and keep as part of that connectedness, and listen well and not diminish our partner's story, whatever that story was for the day. To be curious, to be engaged, to find some care and sympathy for what you're hearing, and maybe even being a part of the solution if invited. Sometimes we're not invited to be a part of a solution to the problem. Our spouse, especially our wives, may be communicating to us, but here um, is our opportunity to bring what's on the inside out. And when those fade, all of a sudden the conversations become more logistical. So, who's got the kids? What are we doing for dinner? Do we need to pick up X, Y, and Z? And the conversations are just administrivia. It's sort of the what do we need to do to get through today? Now, I'm going to challenge you for some other things that I saw in myself. One is that you become more emotionally generous with the team that you are on or serve or lead than you are with your spouse. And so your best energy is somewhere else. It's not at home. What's left is leftovers, if anything, at home. And the emotional generosity of being engaged, being present, having some energy, uh, is just somewhere else. So as we start to hold on to what's on the inside, we just move to logistics. We're more emotionally intertwined with people at work, and then our spouses stop to ask us to change things. Uh, they give up on us, or we give up on our spouse. And so why ask? They're never gonna change. They're always that way. Oh, that word, always, every time, never. Warning signs, right, is that I'm giving up something. I'm stopping believing that there's really something here for us. And what ends up happening ultimately is intimacy, affection, even playfulness is just evaporating because that's what we did when we were younger or we had more energy or whatever. And is that was me. I mean, those things were slipping out the back door. And as leaders, chained to our desks in our minds or our work worlds, and we're watching metrics and numbers and hitting things. But marriage doesn't come with a dashboard. I think there are some warning lights, though, that when we're seeing the things that I'm talking about here, even an absence of conflict, another bad sign, right? If you don't have conflict, you're creating conflict debt, by the way, because as humans, there's no chance that you don't have something you disagree about or that you always see things the same. You're human. All relationships have this. So that silence is going to create violence, really. That moment with which I've just decided that it's no longer worth it is that I'm ceding ground to this conflict debt with, which is just like the credit card swipe when the bill's going to come and it's going to have to be paid. That is the silent, slow fade. Now, listen, entrepreneurial marriage has seasons of strain. I would say every marriage has it, but we're focused on you as the leader, the executive, the business owner, the entrepreneur who's out there creating. You can say to yourself that this grind is going to go away. I had a good friend who said to me when I'd said 2 years in a row without even noticing it, I want to have that year again. He said, you know, you said that to me last year, right? And I woke up and I thought, I can't believe it. That's right. I said that last year. So, what's it going to look like? Because there's some triggers that can start this process that can lead to distance and difficulty if we're not careful. So, making it a season versus a pattern is what we're looking at here. So some signs, some things that I went through in our marriage, extended travel. There was a period of time where we were growing so much that I was just away all the time. And that physical absence creates gaps, not only in my marriage, but with our children. They need my presence, my emotional engagement, and to be interested in engaged. Now, high growth seasons can come, but how long? And how long will you decide that you're the key reason why that growth is happening? How long will you decide that you have to be in the mix for the growth to continue? Because the high growth is going to happen, but then what if it's starting to sideline you? And there can be moments where you're fundraising and getting capital and it's extremely intense and then all of a sudden this crash. Well, what's it going to look like for you to go through that season and then start to build something that doesn't involve you at the center of everything? That can be all sorts of triggers, right? That can lead to seasonal challenge, team crises, client crises, a bad hire, a departure. I've gone through my share of those, and they create an incredible stress in the home atmosphere. Well, what about if you've let your identity shift because of a win or a loss? A big win or a failed launch, a big exit, a liquidation event, has that changed your identity? And then all of a sudden triggering different mindsets on your contribution here? Or, and this is a key one, it's financial pressure. Even when it's kept private, financial stress leaks. It leaks. It's like, I've got it, I've got it, I've got it. I can carry anything on these broad shoulders. Me plus God, I don't need you. And but it's just leaking out while that stress is happening. So we need to understand triggers that sort of get us into these seasons. And then we have to work on mindset and plan so that we have exits for them. Because we're gonna get ambushed by them if we're not careful. And let's have a meta conversation on this with your spouse, is to say, "Hey, these are things that I could see in our future, ups, downs, seasons of strain. How about this over a date night? When this kind of season comes up, here's what we're gonna do together. Here's some words we're gonna share with each other. Here's what we're gonna give permission for." Set the stage with the parachute already intact so that when these seasons come, you know your entrances and your exits before the downturn happens. Because if you can anticipate it and name it, there's an intimacy and get this, men, get this, a form of protection here that we're creating for our spouses. So we're trying to understand that there's a critical difference between a marriage going through a hard season and a marriage that's caught in a dangerous pattern. One is it's survivable and even strengthening because that's just the crucible of a good challenge that can lead to our getting closer together and for each other. But the other one, that's this dangerous pattern, it needs intervention, or we've got to find a way to cut it off. So here's a little bit of diagnostic that you can do to think about this. A hard season, both of you, not one of you, both of you know that it's temporary and you're anticipating the end. A dangerous pattern, it's just what it is. It is what it is. It's who we've become, it's who we are. It's normal. A hard season, there's a clear milestone end date, but the dangerous pattern is what I was doing is I don't wanna have that year again. I don't wanna have that year again. This sort of pattern that comes without even noticing it or realizing I'm living in the hamster wheel here. How about a hard season involves communication that can be strained, but it's still there. A dangerous pattern is one of both of you maybe have stopped bringing things up. That's just where we don't go. We don't talk about. We just stop working on it. Now, listen. You get into those moments where there's some stuff that needs some work. I'm going to suggest that you find a counselor or a coach or both that are going to help you move if you found yourself deep into there are some buried bodies, some difficulties, some things that are really dysfunctional, and we haven't worked on them. Because if you leave that dysfunction, eventually your only answer in your mind will be, we got to exit and we got to protect against that. Here's a hard season. A hard season still has grace intact. There's a wide berth of understanding, but in a dangerous pattern, there's resentment. It's starting to compound quietly. Those never, always, every times, and we use these extreme language terms that say there's no difference in you and you're always going to be that way. We get stuck. The hard season, there are moments of genuine connection still. The dangerous pattern, the only time we really connect is with maybe a little extra alcohol, only once a year on vacation. You know, it's happening at the surface, but it's not on the deeper level. A hard season, both of you want the same outcome. Now, when you both want the same outcome, you're really fighting for each other, even when it's difficult. You're rooting for each other and trying to serve in that mutual submission that we talked about earlier here. But in that difficult season, one person is quietly beginning to grieve the relationship, to say, there was a day when, okay, I think you're seeing it here. I'm hoping you're seeing the difference between a hard season and a dangerous pattern, but there's really work to be done that can help you to make sure that where you're going to find the exit, how you're going to prevent from it being a pattern, and how you're going to work on it. I'll never forget when Heather and I were walking our dogs. We were living in Southern California at the time, and she said, "I don't know what's happening to you, but whatever is happening, if we don't start talking about this, the two of us are gonna start to drift apart." Now, drifting apart, she was recognizing in me, by the way, at that time, some good growth that she hadn't signed up for. But the good growth involved sacrifice, dedication, and focus that she was seeing from me at that time. Having come back from living overseas, I started to get dedicated in myself. I didn't make it a requirement of her growth. She's got to grow and I won't grow unless you grow. I just started deciding. that I was going to grow. And I did. And it was under the influence of the master's program that I was changing and she was seeing it. I wasn't the same person, but that can also create drift, right? If you can see it and say, okay, uh, we want to be on the same page. We want to be on the same trajectory. We don't want to have two separate lives. Now, I can tell you doing things together has been a absolute game changer for us. One of the things that we did together early on is we did worship together. We led music at our church. That was our Jeff and Heather thing. Over time, that has diminished as we've had new seasons come up. Today, pickleball is our thing. It's the Jeff and Heather thing that we do together alongside of doing Dream Master and marriage workshops and collaborating and coaching. So having something that you do together, I think is a critical way to build some bonding and some work. Now, whether you actually work in career together or not, that might be a little bit separate, but finding the thing that you find together that you both love to dive into, to create conversation around, to be growing in and encouraging and discovering, I think that this is important. So for you, what I'm encouraging to understand is that the conversations that are needed may include something like, "Hey, I feel like I'm losing you. I feel like we're on different train tracks. I need to talk to you about this, and I don't know how to solve it, and I'm not gonna try to solve you. I'm seeing a drift." Now, resist the urge to accuse or defend here. You're trying to create a platform with which you can observe what's really happening and receive here before you respond. Just receive this, sift with it. All feedback needs to be sifted. Then name the drift and create a commitment together. Not one that says, I'm going to get this nailed in one day's time or something like that. It's just a journey with which you will discover. Listen, when performance is loudest, going back to your covenant commitment to Jesus and each other is a stabilizer. In our family, we don't use the D word, divorce. We never say the D word at home. And don't bring that out. Be committed to each other, not as a business partnership, but a true covenant like Jesus' covenant with us. Return to that foundation. Be honest in prayer. Seek out counseling. Seek out a coach. And do the work that's worth it, because the hard work makes these seasons navigable, makes them possible that they won't be forever. I want to pray for you right now. Lord God, I pray for marriage. It's such a beautiful picture of your love for us. I pray for those who are listening today. I pray for my marriage to my dear, sweet, amazing Heather. God, that you would work in our marriages and help us to see the picture of you in submission and strain, because we love you and it's so worth it, and so are you. And we honor you, Jesus, in your name. Amen. Great being with you today. That's a wrap on episode 4. The slow fade doesn't announce itself, it leaks like a nail in your tire until one day you're stranded. If logistics have replaced real talk, or your best energy goes to the team and leftovers go home, that's your warning light. Name the drift. Have the meta conversation before the season hits. Hey, so share this with a leader who needs it, and keep leveraging your success for what matters forever.